In 1873, Jules Verne imagined a gentleman racing around the world in 80 days. It was fiction, elegant and clever. 16 years later, a young reporter in New York looked at the idea and asked the most dangerous question in history. What if someone actually tried it? Her name was Nellie Bly. She had no expedition, no naval rank, no fortune underwriting the attempt. She had a newspaper assignment, a small bag, and a talent for refusing sensible limits. The plan sounded absurd for excellent reasons. The journey would depend on steamships, trains, border crossings, weather, port officials, coal stops, and timetables. Today, a missed connection means annoyance. In 1889, it could mean watching days vanish while the next ship existed only as an estimated date. Her editor had another objection. He thought such job required a man. A woman, he argued, would need protection. She would need trunks. She would need help. She would slow everything down. Bly's answer was not delicate. "Start the man," she said in effect, "and I will start the same day for some other newspaper and beat him." That settled it. She would go with one dress, one coat, and one small handbag. No trunks, no servants. On November 14th, 1889, she stood ready at Hoboken. At 9:40 in the morning, steamship Augusta Victoria pulled away. Nellie Bly was no longer arguing that the trip could be done. She was inside the clock now. The Atlantic came first. Cold water, ship schedules, and thousands of miles before Europe even appeared. Today, New York to Europe is a flight. For Bly, it was days of ocean before the real machinery of the route began. On November 22nd, she reached England in the middle of the night. From there, the journey became a chain of fragile connections. Trains meeting boats, boats meeting trains, and sleep becoming a luxury. She rushed through London, ate a fast breakfast, and kept moving. No time for sightseeing. It was logistics with a pulse. Coffee, platform, ticket, departure, move. Then she did something wonderfully reckless. Instead of taking the safest line onward, she detoured to Amiens, France, to meet Jules Verne himself, the man whose imaginary route she was trying to outrun. It was a perfect scene, fiction shaking hands with reality. It was also dangerous because the clock did not care about symbolism. Every hour spent being charming in France had to be paid for somewhere else. After Amiens, Bly rushed south through Europe toward Brindisi. France, Italy, stations, transfers, timetables. One missed train could become one missed steamer, and one missed steamer could turn the whole adventure into a very expensive geography lesson. At Brindisi, in the middle of the night, she went ashore to send a cable. Then she heard a whistle. For one bright, horrible moment, she thought who her ship was leaving, with her luggage aboard and a record dying in the harbor. It was the wrong whistle. Her ship was still there. The crisis passed, but the message was clear. This route was made of links, and any link could snap. From Brindisi, the route bent east. Port Said, the Suez Canal, the Red Sea, Ardennes. Coal dust, small boats, heat, shouting ports, short stops. On December 8th, she reached Colombo in Ceylon 2 days early. For one beautiful moment, the clock seemed to favor her, but then the timetable punished her. The next ship was not ready. She had gained 2 days at sea, only to lose 5 days on land. Finally, Bly boarded the Oriental, bound for Penang, Singapore, and Hong Kong. The attempt was damaged, but not dead. Mile by mile, the ship began clawing back what Colombo had stolen. At Singapore, the ship had to wait outside the harbor overnight because entering after dark was too dangerous. Then came rough weather and monsoon seas. Water entered Bly's cabin. Her berth stayed dry, barely. On Christmas morning, December 25th, she reached Hong Kong, and there the plot acquired a rival. Another woman, Elizabeth Bisland, was also circling the globe, sent by a rival magazine, traveling in the opposite direction. To the public, it looked like a race between two women. To Bly, that was almost beside the point. She had not started out chasing Bisland. She was racing time itself, a less polite opponent and harder to interview. Hong Kong forced more waiting. Then came Japan, Yokohama, Tokyo, temples, crowds, beautiful, memorable, and dangerously expensive in time. On January 7th, the Oceanic left Yokohama for San Francisco. The Pacific was the largest and loneliest stretch of the journey. At first, the crossing looked promising. Then the weather turned. Headwinds, head seas, and a great deal of ocean, behaving like it had taken the whole attempt personally. The crew knew what was at stake. In the engine room, they put up a motto: "For Nellie Bly, we'll win or die." Not subtle, but absolutely effective. But jokes did not change the weather. Somewhere beyond the storm was San Francisco. Beyond San Francisco, the final train east. By now, the trip was no longer just a stunt. Ships were racing, engineers were sweating, and readers were following every mile, betting on the exact arrival time. On January 21st, the Oceanic reached San Francisco. Bly had crossed the Pacific, but the route had one more surprise ready. A health certificate had been left behind in Yokohama, and rumors of smallpox threatened to trap her in quarantine. After oceans, storms, delays, and half the planet behind her, the journey could still be ruined by paperwork. The problem passed. She got ashore, and America took over. Waiting for her was not an ordinary train, but a special train arranged by the editor to carry her east as fast as the rails would allow. The ocean part had belonged to ships. The final sprint belonged to engines, rails, telegraphs, and people suddenly determined to help a reporter beat the clock. Across California, through mountains, across the plains, every stop became a scene. Crowds, flowers, reporters, telegrams. By then, Bly was no longer merely traveling through the country. The country was watching her pass. In Chicago, the welcome became almost absurd. Cheers, speeches, crowds, and then back onto the train because applause was pleasant, but the clock remained rude. The last miles were the cruelest. After more than 70 days, after oceans, deserts, monsoons, frozen rails, missed sleep, and too many timetables, the whole attempt came down to hours, minutes, steam, and steel. On January 25th, 1890, at 3:51 in the afternoon, Nellie Bly arrived in Jersey City. The race was over. Final time, 72 days, 6 hours, 11 minutes. Jules Verne had imagined 80 days. Nellie Bly had beaten fiction by more than a week. She had not crossed the world with a fortune or a private expedition. She did it with schedules, nerve, one small bag, and the stubborn refusal to wait for permission. In 1873, Around the World in 80 Days was fiction. In 1890, Nellie Bly stepped off a train and made it old news.